Hi everyone, this is Jim with JP Reacts, where you come to see a former candidate review politician statements so you can hear what they mean by what they say and what they don't say. Today we're going to cover the big story that's in the news today. It's the recording of the conversation between President Trump and the Georgia Secretary of State. I have the recording pulled up from the Washington Post. So hopefully you're interested in that. It's the big story today. It's obviously pretty long. It's about an hour. I'm going to have to cut it up a little bit. Hopefully we can get this all in one video, but if not, I'll cut it into a couple different videos. So we'll get into it next. Okay, so let's get right into the beginning part of this video. I haven't heard it yet in full, so we'll see where it makes sense to make the most comments on it. So let's get right into it.
Mr. President, everybody is on the line, and just so this is Mark Meadows, the Chief of Staff, just so we all are aware, on the line is Secretary of State and two other individuals, Jordan and Mr. Germany. With him, you also have the attorneys that represent the President, Kurt and Alex, and Cleta Mitchell, who is not the attorney of record but has been involved, myself, and then the President. So, Mr. President, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, Brad and Ryan and everybody. We appreciate the time and the call. So we've spent a lot of time on this, and if we could just go over some of the numbers, I think it's pretty clear that we won. We won very substantially, Georgia. You even see it by rally size, frankly. We'd be getting 25,000, 30,000 people a rally, and the competition would get less than 100 people, and it never made sense. But we have a number of things. We have at least two or three, anywhere from 250 to 300,000 ballots were dropped mysteriously into the rolls. Much of that had to do with Fulton County, which hasn't been checked. We think that if you check the signatures, a real check of the signatures going back in Fulton County, you'll find at least a couple of 100,000 of forged signatures of people with who have been forged, and we are quite sure that's going to happen. Another tremendous number. We're going to have an accurate number over the next 2 days with certified accountants, but an accurate number will be given, but it's in the 50s of thousands, and that's people that went to vote and they were told they can't vote because they've already been voted for. And it's a very sad thing. They walked out complaining, but the number is large. We'll have it for you, but it's much more than the number of 11,779. That's the current margin is only 11,779. Brad, I think you agree with that, right? That's something I think everyone, at least that's a number that everyone agrees on. But that's the difference in the votes. But we've had hundreds of thousands of ballots that we're able to actually, we'll get you a pretty accurate number. You don't need much of a number because the number that, in theory, I lost by the margin would be 11,779. But you also have substantial numbers of people, thousands and thousands, who went to the voting place on November 3rd, were told they couldn't vote. Were told they couldn't vote because a ballot had been put in on their name. And, that's very, 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 very sad. We had, I believe it's about 4,502 voters who voted, but who weren't on the voter registration list. So it's 4,502 who voted, but they were not on the voter registration roll, which they had to be. You had 18,325 vacant address voters. The address was vacant, and they're not allowed to be counted. That's 18,325. Smaller number, you had 904 who only voted where they had just a PO, a post office box number. And they had a post office box number, and that's not allowed. We had at least 18,000, that's on tape. We had them counted very painstakingly. 18,000 voters having to do with, she's a vote scammer, a professional vote scammer and hustler. That was the tape that's been shown all over the world that makes everybody look bad. You, me, and everybody else, where they got, number one, they said very clearly, and it's been reported that they said there was a major water main break. Everybody fled the area, and then they came back, and her daughter and a few people. There were no Republican poll watchers. Actually, there were no.
All right, I'm going to stop this here. All these numbers and whatnot don't really matter because the president's team, it hasn't even really been arguing this in court. They have abandoned all vote fraud cases in all their court cases, and they pretty much lost every single court case that they've been a part of. I think they made it 1-1 on election night where they got the poll watchers to move a few feet closer to see it. But at this point, just so we're clear, for pretty much all the states, but we're talking Georgia here, the vote count has been certified by the state. The electoral college members from Georgia have voted already, and they voted for President-elect Biden. There is the only thing coming up now is the Congress has to certify the vote, which it most certainly will, and then the inauguration on January 20th. There is no proof of voter fraud. There is nothing like that has ever been brought up in a place where it could have been affected the change of the election. They had their opportunities to bring up specific cases and specific evidence. The President Trump and his team have never brought any specific evidence to court. All the processes that they've been doing, this is public image stuff. This is for show. There is no substantial vote fraud in any of the states they've been talking to. And there is no reason to believe that there is anything that would affect the outcome of the election at this point. The election is over. President-elect Biden has won. He will be president on January 20th. So all this is just in an effort for some sort of show that say, see, I told you type of situation. But there is really nothing going on here that is legitimate.
Mr. President, if I might be able to jump in, and I'll give Brad a chance, Mr. Secretary, obviously there are allegations where we believe that not every vote or fair vote and legal vote was counted. And that's at odds with the representation from the Secretary of State's office. What I'm hopeful for is there some way that we can find some kind of an agreement to look at this a little bit more fully. The president mentioned Fulton County, but in some of these areas where there seems to be a difference of where the facts seem to lead. And so, Mr. Secretary, I was hopeful that, in a spirit of cooperation and compromises, there's something that we can at least have a discussion to look at some of these allegations to find a path forward that's less litigious.
Well, I've listened to what the president has just said. President Trump.
This is the Secretary of State.
We've had several lawsuits, and we've had to respond in court to the lawsuits and the contentions. We don't agree that you have one. I didn't agree about the 200,000 number that you mentioned. And I could go through that point by point. What we have done is we gave our state senate about 1.5 hours of our time going through the election issue by issue. And then on the state house, the Government Affairs Committee, we gave them about 2.5 hours of our time, going back point by point on all the issues of contention. And then just a few days ago, we met with our U.S. congressmen, Republican congressmen, and we gave them about 2 hours of our time talking about this past election. Going back, primarily what you talked about, you're focused in on primarily, I believe, is the absentee ballot process. I don't believe that you're really questioning the Dominion machines, because we did a hand retally, a 100% retally of all the ballots, and compared that to what the machine said, and it came up with virtually the same result. Then we did the recount, and we got virtually the same result. So I guess we could probably take that off the table. I don't think there's an issue about that. I think what you
well, Brad, not that there's not an issue, but because
Let's take a second right there. That was, again, if you didn't hear me, that last voice before President Trump jumped back in was Secretary of State from Georgia. And basically he was saying that they have gone through this many times with many different groups. He said he had an hour and a half with his state Senate, 2.5 hours with his state House, spent over 2 hours with his congressman from his U.S. congressman. And then he addressed the validity of the machine count, that Dominion issue that basically many of the conservative news agencies have backed off of, since Dominion has said that they are going to sue if they continue to pursue that line of questioning, and they've actually backtracked on that area. But that wasn't the point he was making. He's saying that they hand recounted it, and they redid it with the machine and got the same result each time. So to take that completely off the table, since the machine count wasn't the problem. So we'll continue listening to this, but I just wanted to catch you up there. There was some parts like I've cut out of this conversation already. It's primarily President Trump regurgitating some conspiracy theories that he's talked about many times on the trail. If you're really interested, I'm going to link to the Washington Post with the full audio if you're interested in listening to that part, but it's all the same stuff he's been talking about before. So it's nothing new or interesting to add, and I've debunked it many times in previous videos, so I'm not going to redo it again. But if you're interested, obviously you can follow the link in the description. That'll take you right there.
Ballot boxes, let's face it, Brad. I mean, they did it in slow motion replay magnified, right? She stuffed the ballot boxes. They were stuffed like nobody's ever seen them stuffed before. So there's a term for it when it's a machine instead of a ballot box. But she stuffed the machine. She stuffed the ballot. Each ballot went 3 times. They were showing, here's ballot number 1, here it is a second time, third time, next ballot. I mean, look, Brett, we have a new tape that we're going to release. It's devastating. And by the way, that one event is much more than the 11,000 votes that we're talking about. It's, that one event was a disaster. It's just, but it was something that it can't be disputed. And again, we have a version that you haven't seen, but it's magnified. It's magnified, and you can see everything. And she for some reason, they put it in 3 times each ballot, and I don't know why, but why? I don't know why 3 times. Why not 5 times, right? But yeah, go ahead.
You're talking about the State Farm video, and I think it's extremely unfortunate that Rudy Giuliani or his people, they sliced and diced that video and took it out of context. So the next day we brought in WSB TV and we let them see the full run of tape. And what you'll see, the events that transpired are nowhere near what was projected by.
But where were the poll watchers, Brad? There were no.
Okay, so apparently there's a video that Rudy Giuliani, who is President Trump's lawyer, and he presented as showing that he reportedly showing that they were stuffing ballots or whatever, and then Secretary of State saying that it wasn't a legitimate video because it was heavily edited to show that when it wasn't true. So. Apparently there's the full video of that posted somewhere on the news organization that he mentioned. It's probably their website, so you could probably find it there, that you could see the true video in its entirety and kind of get an idea of what's going on. Again, this is President. You can hear President Trump on this recording, and then the Secretary of State from Georgia, who's the main other person, and there's a couple other people that are jumping in here and there. I'm cutting out parts where President Trump is regurgitating conspiracy theories or stuff that's been said and debunked many times throughout this video. If you're hearing beeps, it seems to be that they're beeping out people's names that aren't part of this call. I'm guessing, I'm not going to guess who it is, but I have an idea about who it is, but I'm not really sure 100% who it is, obviously, since I can't hear the person's name either. So if you are hearing those beeps, that's coming from the recording from the Washington Post, and it seems like they're beeping out somebody's name that's not part of this conversation, hopefully to protect their identity from false accusations that haven't been verified. Washington Post has posted this. I will again share it in the description below, but a lot of this stuff has been shared already, so I want to make sure we get through it. President Trump is continuing to make false allegations, and right now we're still going through some of those allegations, and then hopefully, from what I heard, there's some more juicy stuff coming up that we're gonna want to hear. So if you are enjoying this so far and you're getting some value from it, please like the video, but we'll keep listening.
She has outplayed you at every heart, at everything. She got you to sign a totally unconstitutional agreement, which is a disastrous agreement. You can't check signatures. You can't do it. I can't imagine you're allowed to do harvesting, I guess, in that agreement. That agreement is a disaster for this country. But she got you somehow to sign that thing, and she's outsmarted you at every step. And I hate to imagine what's going to happen on Monday or Tuesday, but it's very scary to people, where the ballots flow in out of nowhere. It's very scary to people. That consent decree is a disaster. It's a disaster. A very good lawyer who examined it said they've never seen anything like it. And
harvesting is still illegal in the state of Georgia, and that settlement agreement did not change that.
Well, it's not a settlement agreement. It's a consent decree. It even says consent decree on it, doesn't it? It uses the term consent decree. It doesn't say settlement agreement. It's a consent decree. It's a disaster.
It's a settlement agreement.
What's written on top of it?
Ryan?
I don't have it in front of me, but it was not entered by the court. It's not a court order.
No, it's called. But Ryan, it's called a consent decree. Is that right on the paper? Is that right?
I don't believe so. But I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. Whatever.
I'll stop it right there. I will post that also in link to that in the description. It is not a consent decree, which is a court-ordered thing. This is actually a compromise settlement that was put into place back last March. Basically, it's a settlement base of all the pending litigation that's going on it, and basically it's going to, if it's part of the election, on what can be put in there and whatnot. Like they said in the recording, harvesting is still illegal. You can read it in detail. It's, how many pages is it? It's 6 pages, but most of the pages don't necessarily pertain to what you're talking about here. But basically, it makes it so that they're going to have to provide additional training. County registrars and absentee ballot clerks are required, upon receipt of each mail-in ballot, to compare the signature or mark of the elector on the mail-in absentee ballot envelope with the signatures of the marks in their electronic database, and compare it to the mail-in absentee ballot. If the signature does not appear valid, registrars and clerks are required to follow the procedure set forth, and then they provide the law. When reviewing the elector's signature on the mail-in absentee ballot, the registrar or clerk must compare the signature on the mail-in absentee ballot envelope to each signature contained on the voter registration record in their electronic system. And if the registrar or clerk determines that the voter signature on the mail-in does not match any of the signatures on file, the absentee application registry the registrar or absentee ballot clerk must seek review from 2 other registrars, deputy registrars, or absentee ballot clerks. An absentee ballot shall not be rejected unless a majority of the registrars reviewing it say it's not good. If that is made, does not match, the registrar shall write the names of the 3 election officers that rejected it, and then the registrar shall notify the person that is supposedly voted. There's some additional stuff about signature matching and all that good stuff, but it's not really what the president is making it out to be. I will definitely link to it in the description, but harvesting and not requiring signature matching, all that stuff the president said is not part of it, and it is not a consent decree.
Disaster, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, and flipping the state is a great testament to our country, because, there's just it's a testament that they can admit to a mistake, or whatever you want to call it, if it was a mistake. I don't know. A lot of people think it wasn't a mistake. It was much more criminal than that. But it's a big problem in Georgia, and it's not a problem that's going away. I mean, it's not a problem that's going away. And we got to...
President, this is Ryan. We're looking into every one of those things that you mentioned.
Okay,
and our investigators,
good. But if you find them, you got to say it, Ryan. Look, let me ask you, Ryan, if they're destroying ballots...
Let me tell you what we are seeing.
Go ahead. Good.
What we're seeing is not at all what you're describing.
Okay.
And these are investigators from our office. These are investigators from GBI, and they're looking and they're good, and that's not what they're seeing. And we'll keep looking. We'll keep looking at all these things.
Well, you better check on the ballots, because they are shredding ballots, Ryan. I'm just telling you, Ryan.
Okay, so in that clip, obviously, the president is trying to coerce the Georgia Secretary of State to get his one vote more than his current deficit. If we're going along with what's going on here, the current deficit of the state of Georgia, which is I guess 11,779. It doesn't really matter at this point. The election's over, but this is the president basically attacking the Georgia Secretary of State, who is a Republican, remember, and who is no saint of protecting the vote. He's still doing a lot of things that are detrimental to voting in Georgia. But in this case, he has stuck to his guns and said that this has been a very clear and very honest election to the best of anybody's ability. It's been more scrutinized, I think, than any election has ever been before. And they're not finding these things that the president is accusing them of. You're going to see that I don't know how much of this is going to be, how much of the recording is going to be in this part of the video, but they mentioned that the Georgia Bureau of Investigations has looked into it. Also, the FBI has looked into it. All these things the president is bringing up, they've looked into, and there's no evidence of this. In fact, again, from what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, President Trump's team has not even brought this up in court. They have abandoned all charges of fraud in pretty much all of their cases, and they have not presented any solid evidence of fraud. This is all rumors and speculations, and it's coming from basically the internet, and it's not hard evidence at all. They have not been able to prove any evidence whatsoever. Right now, so far, he's been basically attacking the Secretary of State of Georgia, trying to coerce him to get that one more vote over what the current deficit is. So we'll continue to listen.
Want to find answers, not people that don't want to find answers. For instance, I'm hearing Ryan, and he's probably, I'm sure, a great lawyer and everything, but he's making statements about those ballots that he doesn't know. but he's making them with such, he did make them with surety, but now I think he's less sure, because the answer is they all went to Biden. And that alone wins us the election by a lot. You know, so.
Mr. President, you have people that submit information, and we have our people that submit information, and then it comes before the court, and the court then has to make a determination. We have to stand by our numbers. We believe our numbers are right.
Well, why do you say that, though? I don't know. I mean, sure, we can play this game with the courts, but why do you say that? Now, first of all, they don't even assign us a judge. They don't even assign us a judge. But why wouldn't you, hey, Brad, why wouldn't you want to check out, and why wouldn't you want to say, hey, if in fact President Trump is right about that, then he wins the state of Georgia, just that one incident alone, without going through hundreds of thousands of drop ballots. You just say you stick by, I mean, I've been watching you for, you know, you don't care about anything. Your numbers are right. But your numbers aren't right. They're really wrong. And they're really wrong, Brad. And I know this phone call's going nowhere other than ultimately, you know, look, ultimately I win, okay? Because
Mr. Secretary,
you guys are so wrong, and you've treated the population of Georgia so badly. Between you and your governor, who was down at 21, he was down 21 points, and like a schmuck, I endorsed him, and he got elected. But I will tell you, he's a disaster, and he'll never. I can't imagine. The people are so angry in Georgia. I can't imagine he's ever getting elected again. I'll tell you that much right now. But why wouldn't you want to find the right answer, Brad, instead of keep saying that the numbers are right? Because those numbers are so wrong.
Mr. Secretary, Mr. President,
that's what we would entreat and ask you to do, to sit down with us in a compromise and settlement, proceeding, and actually go through the registered voter IDs and the registrations. And if you can convince us that 24,149 is inaccurate, then fine. But we tend to believe that is, obviously more than 11,779. That's sufficient to change the result entirely in and of itself. So what would you say to that, Mr. Germany?
Kurt, I'm happy to. I'll get with our lawyers and we'll set that up. That number is not accurate, and I think we can show you for all the ones we've looked at why it's not. And so if that would be helpful, I'm happy to get with our lawyers and set that up with you guys.
Well, let me ask you, Kurt. Kurt, you think that is an?
So here you have President Trump again trying to coerce the Secretary of State of Georgia to somehow get him his votes, and he's doing it by not only attacking the Secretary of State but also his lawyers and the governor who he endorsed back in the last election, and it's not really moving the ball forward very much for him. It's not what he should be doing to begin with. We'll cover that at the end of the video. The Washington Post that posted this obviously has some details too, but it's not a good look, not only publicly but also privately, to be the way he's handling this. This is a Republican Secretary of State that nominally would be on his side if there was any evidence that there was any type of fraud or any illegality. Sorry, it's a tough word for me to say, around this issue. So hopefully once January 20th rolls around, we can get past this, but there is nothing there. And the Secretary of State has said repeatedly that there is nothing to share here, and there's nothing really different that's going to come out. And he has said publicly that this election was fair. He certified the results, and again, the electors from Georgia voted for President-elect Biden. Let's continue. The Secretary of State has said repeatedly that there is nothing to share here, and there's nothing really different that's going to come out. And he has said publicly that This election was fair. He certified the results, and again, the electors from Georgia voted for President-elect Biden. Let's continue.
Accurate number. That was based on the information given to you by the Secretary of State's Department, right?
That is correct. That information is the minimum, most conservative data based upon the USPS data and the Secretary of State's office data that has been made publicly available. We do not have the internal numbers from the Secretary of State, yet we have asked for it 6 times. I've sent a letter over to Mr. Anulowicz several times requesting this information, and it's been rebuffed every single time. So it stands to reason that if the information is not forthcoming, there's something to hide. That's the problem that we have.
Well, that's not the case. There are things that you guys are entitled to get, and there's things that under law we are not allowed to give out.
Well, you have to.
Okay, so that was the end of the recording. The last part that I probably showed was primarily focused
I am excited
on,
about the fact that
the exchange of information. The facts are that they are not allowed to share certain information by law to protect people's privacy. The primary reason being that you shouldn't be able to tie a person to their vote. It's supposed to be private, and also there are obviously privacy laws on who can know what in every state, and that's why that some information that all the information that was been able to be shared with the President Trump's team has been shared, and everything that they're looking still to get, they can't get because it's not allowed to be shared with candidates and candidates' election teams. So that's what that last part of this conversation was. Basically, this entire call was President Trump trying to coerce the Secretary of State of Georgia to get him his 12,000 votes so he could be declared the winner, although the election's over and there's nothing to go on, and everything that has been shown is there's no fraud and there's nothing going on with this. Remember that this was a Republican Secretary of State for Georgia, so if there was something, he would have brought it up. It's not in his interest to keep it silent if there was things going on. And outside of all of that, President of the United States should not be calling local officials to try to influence an election, either his or anybody else's election. That's just not what he should be doing. And there's a lot of, he talked a lot about criminality during this call, but most of the criminality would be on his shoulders. In a normal country, normal times, maybe even in this country, he would be immediately removed from office and probably facing some criminal prosecutions. The fact that he isn't speaks to where we are right now in this country, which isn't exactly a good place. So hopefully come January 20th, all the craziness will be over. We can move forward with more normalcy. But until we get there, we'll have to continue to live through some of these weird and unusual conversations that the President Trump has been having. Again, this was from the Washington Post. They got it from the Secretary of State of Georgia's office. He recorded the call. Again, he's a Republican, so it wasn't really his interest is to have a Republican Senate, Republican president, and if there was anything to demonstrate that there was some evidence of fraud, he definitely would bring it forward. So hopefully during this video you got some additional knowledge to put some of this call into context. I did cut it up a little bit. I will provide a link to the Washington Post recording in the description below, along with the settlement agreement that Stacey Abrams' group and the state of Georgia came to that was referred to during this call as well. If you found some value in this, again, please, hopefully you like this. If you thought I was just being crazy, not providing any information, obviously you can dislike it. But either way, in the comments below, please tell me, do you think that the president stepped out of line by even calling the Secretary of State of Georgia to try to coerce him to change the count of the election? If you did or didn't, please put the answer below and why you think that's the case. But until next time, I'll see you around the internet. You have a great night. Bye.